given I know what I'm talented to do and have the potential to do, am I doing it? Did I do something uncomfortable that day that I know most other people wouldn't do? And did I do it early in the day? Because if I wait to do the uncomfortable, I've failed myself because it just gets even more hard to do it.
What would make a successful financial advisor sell one of America's top firms just to help everybody else become everyday millionaires? Well, today's guest did exactly that, and he's here to share his middle class to millionaire playbook. So welcome back to The Root of All Success. I am the real Jason Duncan, and this is episode number 316. My guest today is Derrick Kinney. He's a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestselling author. If you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube, you can see over his right shoulder a copy of his book there. He's also a nationally recognized financial educator, a former wealth advisor who built and sold one of the top financial planning firms in the country. He's the CEO of Good Money Frameworks and the host of the Good Money podcast, where he helps listeners build wealth with purpose. He's been featured on Fox, on CNN, on CNBC, Yahoo Finance, and more. And now he's featured right here on The Root of All Success, and he's here to unpack the real story behind the Good Money revolution. So, Derrick, welcome to the show.
Jason, thanks for having me. I love that intro. I need to let my kids hear that to know that Dad has some real street cred. It's great to be with you.
Our families are the last ones to recognize that we actually are successful. So, Derrick, what made you walk away from a wildly successful advisory firm just as it was thriving? And what was the moment when you knew it was time to pivot?
Well, you know that moment where your favorite athlete, you see them doing well, but then the last 2 years of their career, you wonder to yourself, man, they should have left like 2 years ago at the high point. I did not want to be that person. So quick story, I go on a yearly sabbatical every year. I take about 5 days completely by myself to think and pray and journal. I ask myself 3 questions. How do I be a better husband? How do I be a better father? And how do I be a better business owner? And what I realized many years ago was I tend to run really fast. I set lots of goals, but if I run really fast and don't know where I'm going, I run really fast in a circle. And so I decided to take 1 week out of the year to determine what I should run really fast toward the other 51 weeks out of the year. So I'm in Boston, July 2019, in a hotel there overlooking the water. And I begin to write a list of all the things I would enjoy doing: coach, speak, consult, write a book, launch a podcast, go national on TV. Shockingly, Jason, what wasn't on the list was being a financial advisor. That's when I knew that if I wanted to go to Derrick 2.0, as I called it, I would need to sell my business, bet on myself again, back myself in the corner, burn the ships, and build something brand new that really revitalized me. And that's the crazy, bold decision that led me to do that.
So then you sold the firm and started just coaching and consulting? Was that your immediate pivot?
Well, so I actually sold my business right before COVID. I mean, the timing could not have been better. And the first order of business was I had built a very successful financial planning business, but I didn't want to just hand it off to someone. I wanted to hand it up. And I had an experience as a kid with my dentist, of all things. I was with the dentist for like 30 years. And it was more than just a dentist relationship. We talked about business and life and investing. And I actually looked forward to going to the dentist, as crazy as that is. Well, I'm in the chair many, many years ago when he drops on me, "Hey, Derrick, this is going to be the last time I see you. I'm selling my business." It hit me like a ton of rocks out of the blue, shocking. And I said to myself, one day, if I ever sell my business, I don't want any of my clients to feel like I just felt. And so I vowed to call each of my clients individually. There was about 150 of them. And it was like pressing a button that replayed a video of all of our life together, the goals and the dreams and the heartaches that we walked alongside them. I laughed, I cried. One woman, though, summed it up the best. She said, "Derrick, if you're going to have a midlife crisis, just buy a Corvette. It's a whole lot cheaper." But just in a moment of vulnerability with you, Jason, it took me about a month and a half to call all my clients. I literally broke down in tears the last call I made. it was so much weight lifted off my shoulders because I wanted to end well and I wanted to make sure my clients were handed up well because a year from now, I wanted them to say, boy, Derrick, you did a great job for us, but you actually gave us somebody better, which was a big dose of humility. But that was the goal. If you want to exit well, you've got to find somebody better than you to exit them too.
So, was there a defining moment when you realized that your mission wasn't just managing money, but educating people about it?
Yeah, it was interesting because I loved leading people and walking alongside them through life's hard things. I mean, people that would have, I'm just getting married, I'm launching a business, having the boldness to leave their career, their executive job to launch a business, to have kids, all these things that we walk through people as financial advisors along the path. And I realized I'm not leaving them, but I want to go bigger. And one of the things I always enjoyed doing was helping take complex money topics and making them easy to understand. One of the things I realized, we would work with quite a few middle class people and really help them become millionaires fairly quickly, is they felt money was too complicated. They always felt like there were all these money secrets locked up in this vault, and only a select few people had the combination. And I wanted to bust that myth wide open and say, look, we're going to give you the combination. Here are the secrets. And if you practice these specific steps, it doesn't happen overnight like it looks like on social media, but eventually you will become a millionaire. But more importantly, not just the dollar amount, but it's who you become as a person, the confidence and the courage and the boldness that you have, knowing that now you've done this. You've now been an example to your family. You might be that one person in your generation that people look back on and say, it was Bill, it was Susan who literally changed our entire family tree because of your financial courage. And that was worth selling my business and helping people achieve that.
So, your business was Derrick Kinney and Associates, I believe, right? That was the
That's
name of the
right.
business. So, you built one of America's top advisory firms. So, what were the key decisions or principles that made your business stand out?
Well, one of the things I realized quickly was everything I did was commoditized. Financial advisors all appear to be the same to everybody else. Everything that we give to clients to help them achieve their goals, everybody has. There's no real differences. One of the things I realized early on, and it was a big mistake I made. I was 26 when I became a financial advisor, but the problem I had is I looked like I was 13. No gray hair, no wrinkles. I'm like, who's going to work with a punk like me? But I had a passion for supporting local education. And so I went back to my alma mater high school here in Arlington, Texas, Sam Houston. And I said to the principal, hey, I'd like to sponsor and recognize a teacher of the month and a student of the month. Because when I was a senior in high school, literally nobody successful ever came back to our school and gave us a vision as to what the real world looks like. All they said was take your math, take your science, take your history, everything's going to be fine. But deep inside, we kind of knew they were selling us a line. And so I went back and began to recognize students and teachers just to express belief in them. Well, I began to get phone calls from people who saw these pictures that we put in the newspaper back in the day. And what a woman said to me changed everything. She said, Derrick, we know you're young, we know you're new, but we want to work with you because you care about what we care about. And the moment she said that, Jason, it was like weight was lifted off my shoulders, because what it meant was I didn't have to be the best looking, didn't have to be the smartest, didn't have to be the most well connected. I just had to care about what the people I most wanted to work with cared about. And so having a cause I cared about, then what I discovered was when I could identify the pain point that my ideal clients had and I could speak into that, that became me irresistible to work with and began to set me apart as just a normal everyday financial advisor.
You often say that money is a tool for impact, not just for comfort. So, what's the biggest mindset shift that people need to make if they want to use money for good?
Yeah, so I had a couple come in the office and we began to dig into why they were feeling behind financially. And what we uncovered was they said, Derrick, it's not that we feel like we're behind, but we feel like money may be bad. I was like, really? Tell me more about that. She said, well, when we watch the news and we scroll on social media, it makes it look like everybody who is successful, well, they're bad. And I said, why? They said, well, you have to be bad because that means you're holding people back. You're not allowing other people to have opportunities. You're sort of holding and keeping all the money for yourself. And that's bad, right? And I said, no, it's not. I said, but the perception and culture was that if you're super wealthy, then you must be super holding other people back and just taking all the money for yourself. You're a greedy person. And what I realized was, and it's why I wrote this book, Good Money Revolution, was to basically punch culture back in the face and say, no, not only is money not bad, but money is good because of all the good that you can do with it. And what I challenged this couple with was, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to set a sales goal for your business over the next 12 months. And let's take a part of that and use that to fund a cause that you care about. Well, what that did was it completely remotivated them. They wanted to help the homeless in our community. So they let their clients know, prospective clients, their team, everybody got remotivated because now they weren't just working in a business. They were working in a business with a cause. Their sales began to skyrocket. They got remotivated. They felt like they were back in high school again. The energy all came back because now they tied their cause to their cash, money to meaning, and purpose to their profits. And once they did that, now we hear stories about people who are thinking about selling their business, but now they choose not to because now they want to double down and grow it even more because they want to give even more. They see their business as the greatest tool for good and the greatest tool for profit all at the same time.
Interesting. What I'm gonna tag a little bit onto that last statement that you made. They don't want to sell their business because they realize that the business that they have now could be the greatest tool for making money, which can do a lot of good. What do you personally believe about that? Holding on to the business rather than selling it, as somebody who did sell the business?
Well, I sold it because on my personal goal path, I knew I needed to sell it in order to go to the next big thing I wanted to go to. So I meet so many people, especially in the financial advisor space or the personal services space, that they are sort of half in, half out. Maybe they golf 4 days a week and they see clients 2 days a week, and the business goes, but it doesn't grow. I'm a grower, or I'm either all out. There's no middle ground for me. So this example came, there was a woman named Heather Monahan who had me on her podcast, and she was talking about, she said, Derrick, I got your book. And she gave my book to one of her clients. And this guy had about a $25 million business. He was burned out. He was ready to just sell the business, get out, do something else. But when he read the book, it gave him purpose and a renewed sense of meaning of like, well, I could sell the business and then become just a full-time philanthropist, or I could basically revitalize the business and now grow it with a purpose, not just the intention of building 7 or 8 figures or 9 figures in my bank account. Now I'm going to use this business as a tool for good. So it actually motivated him to actually grow the business more. It had more value, and he could live out his principles of giving and still own the business. Now, is that right for everybody? No, but what I want to do is tie motivation to money. And a lot of people want that feeling when their head hits the pillow at night that they know they've lived a day of meaning and purpose, not just making a lot of money, which is great, but if you can make a lot of money and make a lot of other people's lives better, that's really the lottery ticket.
So you call yourself America's financial educator. So you already talked about one myth, that money isn't bad. What's another big financial myth that keeps the middle class stuck?
Well, I'll tell you another story. So I was in the office on a Saturday morning and I saw my voicemail light blinking, and I knew just a voice inside said, Derrick, you need to listen to that message. I pressed the button and I didn't expect what I heard next. A frantic woman's voice that said, Derrick, I know it's Saturday. I hope you get this. Call me. They're about to send me to jail. I need your help. Well, I've never had a message like that in 25 years as a financial advisor. And I knew I couldn't wait to call her back. I needed to call her back right then. So I called her, recognized, of course, the woman's voice. And I said, why are they going to send you to jail? And she said, well, Derrick, I got this letter in the mail today that I didn't move money from my savings to checking. I'd written a check and it looks like the check bounced and now they're going to send me to jail. I said, okay. What you got was a non-sufficient funds letter. We can easily get this corrected with your bank on Monday. But why are you thinking you're going to go to jail? She tells me a story about when she was a 7-year-old girl. She overheard her dad receive a phone call from a store. Her dad had just bought some school supplies for she and her sister. And the store owner accused her dad of bouncing a check and saying, I know you did this on purpose. I'm going to send the cops over to send you to jail. As a 7-year-old girl, she began to internalize, if you bounce a check, you make a financial mistake, you go to jail. This woman was now almost 60 years old and began to paint the picture. When she was with me, she rarely took my advice. She looked very successful on the outside, but she was like this wilting flower on the inside. And I brought her in the office next week and I said, let's unpack this. And we began to realize she had built up these bad money beliefs. On the outside, looked very successful, but on the inside, they were holding her back from the opportunities that she was uniquely qualified for. Once we talked about this and she began to realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been my own worst financial enemy. She was promoted to vice president within 3 months, got a $25,000 a year raise. And most importantly, she started taking my advice. She started taking some risk in making money. But what it taught me was, if a woman who looks as successful as her can feel like this, I bet there's a whole lot of other people that have these bad money beliefs that were instilled in them maybe by well-meaning parents or brought on by themselves that were holding them back. And I said, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, the bad money stories that we all carry, we don't know where they came from, but they infect us for life if we don't have a coach or an advisor or a mentor to help undo those bad money myths.
Yes.
Through Success for Advisors, you're coaching others to scale their advisement firms with purpose. So what's the number one mistake that you see financial advisors making today?
Well, this is going to sound kind of crazy, but I think a lot of people can relate to it. Let's say that you're in a social setting and someone walks up to you and asks you, what do you do for a living? Most often you say, I'm a financial advisor. And you can just picture it. The person's eyes start to glaze over. They start to walk backwards. They want to escape the conversation. And you wonder, what just happened? All I said was, I'm a financial advisor. And the problem is, everybody has a checklist in their mind of what that means. They might be thinking to themselves, financial advisors cost a lot of money. My mom lost a lot of money with a financial advisor. All they do is sell you a bunch of stuff. All you said was, I'm a financial advisor. And so what I teach advisors is, don't sell based on your title. Connect with the painful problem that you solve. Okay, so let me give you a quick example. Let's say that you were at a social event, Jason, and you've got your favorite beverage in your hand. You're mingling around the room. And a person walks up, asks you, hey, what do you do for a living? You say, oh, I'm a financial advisor. They say, oh, okay. And then you ask them what they do. I'm a personal trainer, he says. I help design workout plans and help people eat better. And you might exchange a few more pleasantries and then you move on. Well, later in the evening, a woman walks up and says, hey, what do you do for a living, Jason? And you say, oh, I'm a financial advisor. And she says, oh, okay. And you say, what do you do? And she says, well, you know how so many busy entrepreneurs and business owners, they're successful, but they always put others above themselves and their health takes a toll. I design customized workout and eating plans so people can feel great, but most importantly, they can look really, really good. And one day they can be the cool grandparent with the energy to chase their grandkids across the floor. I'm a personal training specialist. Pause. Let's say that a week goes by and you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I need a personal trainer. Which one would you be more likely to call? The first trainer or the second trainer? Most people would say the second trainer because that person connected with a pain point that you instantly have. And so if you want to stand out, whether you're an advisor or anybody else in sales or face-to-face, don't lead with your title because people then roll their eyes, they lose interest. You want to connect with them instantly with a pain point they quickly recognize.
In this world of AI and automation, how does a financial advisor remain essential and attract high net worth clients?
Well, you want to think about AI as your assistant, but not your replacement. Will there be some people who want to work only with tech? Yes. But keep in mind, tech gives you space for more face-to-face. And if you want to make it rain, connect with pain. Ultimately, people want to work with other people. In a world of high tech, what's even more valued is high touch. So you want to think of AI as behind the curtain. If you're going to see a concert of your favorite band, typically people don't stand up and applaud the sound and the AV and the tech people. It goes on behind the scenes. They want to see the rock stars on the stage. Always remember that you are the rock star. AI is your supporting cast. Use it as a tool, but when you can verbally and non-verbally connect with people with empathy and trust and credibility, and you shake their hand and they feel the tonation in your voice, the concern, the worry, you understanding their fears, they feel like you're somebody who gets me. That's a way to just sucker punch AI and all the people that say AI is going to take all of our jobs right in the mouth, because you own your success. If you want to own your success, own a problem. That is the key.
Let me pause right there and say something to every entrepreneur listening about our sponsor for today's episode. If you're not using Dub yet, you are missing out, period. I use Dub to connect with leads, with prospects, with clients in a deeply personal way, and I do it through video. As a matter of fact, I just sent a Dub video to a guy that owns a podcasting platform that I met recently. And when he sent me back, he actually responded with a video too. He thought that was so cool. He's like, I'm going to send this back. You're on the cutting edge. This is really cool. So whether it is that I'm following up with clients, or I'm showing someone how to use a tool, or I'm reaching out to podcast guests like my guest today, Derrick, Dub lets me do this with clarity, with charisma, and with conversions. It's simple, it's effective, it's authentic, and it's why I keep it in my toolbox. You can check it out today, get 50% off your first 2 months and a free trial by going to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. That's spelled DUBB. therealjasonduncan.com/dub, and start closing deals the personal way. All right, Derrick, you were known as one of the best wealth advisors in the country. So what was the internal identity shift like when you sold the firm and you walked away from that role?
Yeah, so that was interesting. That was probably one of the hardest things. I've helped many clients retire. And what I found is, especially for the guy, but especially if it's a woman who's in an executive type role and has a lot of responsibility, it's equally as painful for her as well. And that is, when you lose your business card title, you often lose your identity. Okay. And what that led to was feeling misunderstood as people were trying to figure out what it is you're doing. Because the logical thing for me is, I sold my business to retire. People would say, Derrick, how's retirement? I'm like, man, I'm working harder now than I was when I was working over there. So quick story. We have 4 kids, 26 to 21. All 4 of them are entrepreneurs now. They all have started their own businesses. And I happened to take them to lunch, and my wife was running some errands, and we went to like Shake Shack. And I asked them out of the blue, I said, hey, do any of you ever feel misunderstood? You could have heard a pin drop, Jason. They were like, yeah. How did you know? I said, tell me when you feel like that. They said, well, whenever we talk about 2 of my kids went to college, 2 didn't. And they say, well, here's why we decided not to work for somebody else. And people question us and they say, why would you take that risk? And why would you do that? And they said, yeah, Dad, that's the word, misunderstood. And so what we agreed on as a family that day was, the Kinney family, because we do bold things, we are misunderstood. And we took the word misunderstood and took it out of the category of bad and put it into the proud category to say, if you're not doing anything worthy of making a big difference in the world, if you're not really doing things that move the needle, then you are going to be misunderstood. You have to be misunderstood. And oftentimes when you're describing what you do, you're going to feel like you're questioning yourself, even in the live moment of explaining what you do. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure this out. But keep focused on that and recognize being misunderstood is almost a requirement on the pathway to success.
You work with people at all income levels. So what's something that even high earners still get wrong about money?
Well, one of the things that they miss, and that is they think they will not worry about money the more money they have. And so there's a cycle that I realized 25 years into the business that everyone has worry. The people who don't have money, they worry about not having money and how can I get enough? And then once you have money, you start to worry about, well, is it going to be enough? And then once you have a lot of money, you then worry about, what if I lose it all? I can't afford to like restart this whole process again. So just a recognition that worry is the constant, regardless of how much money you have. And as I like to say, as long as you can expect what you'll likely expect, it doesn't derail you. You know, there was a couple one time that we had a home group at our church, and we were all young couples, no kids. We'd go around and talk about life and our first jobs and how some of us wanted to have kids, all this kind of stuff. And there was one couple who would always had bad things happening to them. And they would always say, you know, once we get through this, then things are going to get better. Once we get past this debt, then our money is going to get better. And what I realized years later was what they were missing was that's just life. And when people don't expect that life's going to be hard, then their life is unnecessarily hard. But if you assume that, hey, life is going to be hard, that's just how life is, but I expect it, and when it happens to me, it's not going to derail me, then it keeps you on the trackway to keep moving forward. But people who just keep getting knocked off, I think they don't realize that's just how life is. Life punches, and you've got to punch right back with your plan for your life.
Derrick, what has been your one key that has helped you unlock success more than anything else?
You know, I go back to a lesson I learned in high school. So I've got a pretty big nose, as you can see. I was teased about it a lot as a kid. Okay. It took me to some dark, dark places. But when I was in high school, I had this crazy idea to run for student body president. I was a nobody with the heart of a somebody. And as I looked around the high school, there was a whole lot of other people just like me who felt overlooked, unseen. And when I ran, I noticed there were all these pockets of students. There was the rock and roll crowd, the country western crowd, the honor roll crowd, the kids that smoked in the back, the athletic crowd. And everybody had their own groups, but nobody brought them together. So this crazy idea I had was I would reach out to the leaders of all of these groups, get a picture taken of me and them shaking hands, and put that picture on a poster board above where they would hang out endorsing me. Well, the day of the election came, there were 5 other candidates, and the crackle of the microphone was on, and the principal said, and the winner is Derrick Kinney. And it wasn't me that just won that day, Jason. It was all of us. And we had a class reunion about 5 years ago, and several students who I was with in high school said, Derrick, do you remember the election? I'm like, dude, we're adults. We've got kids. You've got businesses. Why in the world are you asking me about the election? It's because how it made them feel. They felt important and valued and part of something bigger. And that lesson taught me that in business, you don't have to be the smartest or the best looking or the well-connected. You just have to care about people and make the people you're working with feel heard, understood, and valued. That simple principle has made me millions and can make a lot of other people millions. Don't overcomplicate success. Make people feel important, and you will achieve your goals.
How do you personally define success?
For me, have I given all that I'm capable of that day? I don't typically define success by I hit this revenue goal, how my kids are doing, how my relationship is with my wife. It's this game I play with myself every day, given I know what I'm talented to do and have the potential to do. Am I doing it? Did I do something uncomfortable that day that I know most other people wouldn't do? And did I do it early in the day? Because if I wait to do the uncomfortable, I failed myself because it just gets even more hard to do it. But when I do what I know I'm capable of and do something hard that day, that to me is a day of success. And I tell my wife, I felt fulfilled. That leads me to fulfillment that day. That's how I define it.
So based on that definition, do you consider yourself successful?
Well, so far today, yes. So some may say, Derrick, that's unfair, but it's what motivates me. You know, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, you've got to find out what motivates you. You know, one of my friends once told me, he said, Derrick, the key to my success has been I bite off more than I can chew, then I chew like heck. Well, most people, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but to entrepreneurs and business owners, that may hit that bell that connects with them. And so for me, there's things after I have my conversation with you, Jason, that I need to do that are scheduled. I pre-schedule my day and I make sure that what's important to me is scheduled. I'll get those things done. And so my goal is when my head hits the pillow at night, that doesn't always happen, but did I give it my all? Because what I feel like is there's advisors and other professionals that need what I have to offer. And if I don't give it my all, I'm literally doing them a disservice by not giving them the knowledge I have to help them live the life I know they're capable of. And I can't live with myself if I don't do that.
All right, put your coach and consultant hat on for just a second. What is your best piece of advice for entrepreneurs?
Well, this is going to sound so basic, but I like to give people the small steps that lead to big results. And one is you've got a time block. On Saturday, ideally for about an hour and a half, get a nice cup of coffee, whatever your favorite beverage is, and look at your next week. And you know you're going to have unscheduled stuff, but think about what are the top 3 highest, most dollar productive activities, and you need to schedule those in to your calendar. 30 minutes, 60 minutes. I tend to be a sprinter. I'm like a 10-minute attention span guy. So I block it like in 10 minutes, take a break, 10 minutes. But if you don't block it in, then life is going to block its own priorities in for you. You're going to get to Friday and wonder, what the heck happened? But the way to successful people are successful is they block it in and they know every day and audit themselves. Okay, did I get done what I need to? If not, I've got to make sure Tuesday's even better than Monday.
Good advice. All right. It's time to wrap up the show with our rapid fire questions. Are you ready for 3 quick rapid fire questions?
Let's go.
Biggest money mistake you've ever made?
Well, the biggest one, I was scammed on Bitcoin about a year ago. And the company itself, reputable company, it's a national company. I had stock in the company at one point, but there was an internal deal through service. They actually referred me to somebody internally, and they took about $100,000 right out of my account. And so looking back, there were signs that were there. But I know this sounds lighthearted, but it took a crook to give me the best customer service at that organization. So you can learn a lot from that.
One financial tip you think everyone should hear, but almost nobody follows?
Well, and again, this is going to be simple. It's also a 4-letter word, and a lot of people tend to strike down 4-letter words, but the word is goal. We have a family goal setting meeting every year. Bring in my kids, our family, and we write down goals in 5 main categories. And we also write down what does our ideal year look like and the emotion that we will each feel when we crush our goals. And so just simply writing that down and making a commitment every day to read over those goals reminds you life comes at you hard. And I've said this many times. If you're not telling life your plan, life tells you its plan, and it's vastly different than the one you want.
The book you most often recommend, besides your own, of course.
There's a book that I read quite often, and it's a book of fables about money, and it's called The Richest Man in Babylon by a gentleman named George Clayson. And it was basically a series of essays that he wrote that were fables. It's so simple, but what it reminds me of is really, if you want to be successful, write and speak to people at a 3rd grade level. You want to keep it simple and keep it direct and prevent people from having to burn their brain cells to figure out what the heck you're doing and what the heck you want them to do.
Well, Derrick, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Congratulations on your success and the transition from running a great firm to now being America's financial educator. Tell people how to get a copy of your book and how to get in touch with you.
Yeah. So our website is at successforadvisors.com. Also, a great way to connect is on LinkedIn at Derrick Kinney, and also on Instagram, Derrick Kinney. You can buy the book, Good Money Revolution, at Amazon or anywhere great books are sold.
And his name is spelled Derrick Kinney, Derrick. That's Derrick. And then Kinney is Kinney, Derrick, Kinney. Find him on LinkedIn or Instagram. Go to successforadvisors.com. Derrick, it's been a pleasure meeting you and having you on the show. Congratulations on all your success, and let's stay in touch.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Jason. I really enjoyed this.
All right, you know what time it is. It's time for another edition of JD's Public Service Rants. This is the part of the show where I call out things, the little things that really shouldn't have to be said, but clearly they do. So consider yourself officially put on notice if this is you. I want to talk to you people who bathe themselves in cologne or perfume. If people can smell you before they see you, that's not hygiene, that's chemical warfare. I actually have a real story. I don't usually tell real stories during JD's Public Service Rants, but my wife and I were recently visiting some friends in Jacksonville, Florida, and we went to this nice little restaurant on the water, and we were having a grand time until she walked in. It was a couple, obviously on a date, very attractive couple. They sat down next to us, and it hit us in the face like Mike Tyson punching me with his glove. And it was a nice smell, but it was way too much smell. So much so that I had to get up and leave. I could not sit there. It was so bad. So listen, folks, a little fragrance is fine, but smelling like you took a bath in a bottle of body spray or perfume, that's a hard no. You're not covering anything up. You're just knocking everyone out within a 10-foot radius. So tone it down before someone files a complaint with OSHA. Less is more, folks, okay? Well, that's it for today's JD's Public Service Rant. If you've got an idea for one of these, send it over to me. And remember, don't be that guy. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of The Root of All Success. It's been an honor having Derrick Kinney on my show today. I love interviewing successful people, especially people with a good, big heart like Derrick does. It was a good, you could see it and sense that in the way that he answered his questions thoughtfully. Thank you for listening and tuning in, watching this on Spotify or YouTube or listening to it on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune in again next time when I talk with yet another very successful person about his or her journey to success. And until then, as always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.